Hello, Forest Focus. As Nottingham Forest look to step up their transfer business with 3 players linked, and exciting ones they are by the look of it. So join me to discuss Omari Hutchinson and Dilane Bakwa primarily, with a little bit on Jackson Tchatchoua. First of all, Mark Sutherns. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to see some activity or promise of activity. So yeah, I'm all right.
Good. We've had lots of people saying, "Where's Mark?" One literally said, "What have you done with Mark?" Someone messaged me that.
Well, I've been a bit busy, and I still am a bit busy. So yeah, but yeah.
Well, it's
I'm
good to
all
get
right.
you out of FPL world for the next, however long we've got you for. So I appreciate that. The reason that Dan and Pete are here, and I'll introduce them separately, is because they are Forest recruitment kings by the sound of it. Having identified Dan and Doy, they also picked out Dilane Bakwa. So we'll ask those guys about him. But Dan Cook, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I think you called us football hipsters that watch a bit of YouTube last time. So delighted to see the rise of the football hipsters.
I think my original note said clueless YouTube wankers, I think, when I wrote it down. But you proved me wrong massively. So because
I'm going to go back into hiding, Matt, if you're going to speak like that.
Just abuse people. I know. Well, I've said it now, but I retract it massively because they've shown what they know. Pete Blackburn, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. I was excited to do this for a couple of reasons. Firstly, so that Dan and I can lord it over you, and hopefully, maybe you'll find it in your heart to issue a formal apology as well as a retraction. And secondly, great to have Mark back. It's been a while. The people have been demanding his presence. Everyone on tenterhooks they want to know how miserable he's going to be, if things have got better, or if he's even worse. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm very happy to be here today.
Lovely to have you with us. Right, just before we start, as we record this, Forest have announced that Dale Taylor has joined Blackpool on a permanent basis. Didn't play much in the first team, but I think he's one of those players that will go on to have a good career knocking around the Championship and League One, certainly. So wish him well. How are you, Mark? Actually, we'll get into the players. You were downbeat. We've since signed Dan and Doy. We've kept Morgan Gibbs-White. How are you feeling?
Yeah, we're a bit weird, all that, really. I mean, obviously, I was tail spinning the day after it was announced that that's when I last spoke on here. I think it was the day after Gibbs-White had gone down for the medical or was on his way to Spurs for the medical. I was in a total tail spin. I think, to be fair, the whole club was, because judging by what happened in the days to follow, I mean, I think I said at the time that why are we bothering with the legal challenge? Surely with the release clause, it's a done deal. And I don't think I was alone like that. I think we all felt like it was inevitable we're going to lose Morgan. And at that time, when we'd lost Morgan and Alanga and all the goal involvements that they brought, I was really down on our prospects for this season. And I stand by that. I think if we'd have lost Morgan, it would have put our recruitment back a long, long way. We were already behind at that point, and I think we would have started the season in a bad shape. As it is, Morgan staying. Don't really know the ins and outs of that. It's open for speculation as to what happened there, how much the legal threats played a part, how much Marinakis played a part, judging by the fact he was looming on his shoulder quite a lot. Yeah, but I'm delighted he's staying, obviously, because it's great for our club that we keep a player like Morgan in terms of the statement it makes, but also the fact that it means our recruitment can get back on track in making the squad stronger and not just replacing what we've lost.
Excellent. Let's talk then about these players that we've been linked with. We'll start with Omari Hutchinson. David Ornstein, in Athletic, reporting Ipswich rejected a bid from Forest to sign the attacking midfielder worth 35 million. And he says here, if a sale was to occur, Ipswich would demand a higher price for the under-21 international. Brentford are keen as well after their approach earlier in the window, which again had something about release clauses and that might have expired, and terms of all the clauses involved in that. But yeah, Forest have made the bid. A little bit of context around Omari Hutchinson, thanks to Will and Will WT analysis. Hutchinson last season, positionally, he split his roles between the right wing. We're all assuming he's a right winger, but he played almost half his games as number 10. I looked historically, he's played 17 times on the left wing as well in his career, so he can do it. And in terms of numbers, they were pretty grim for Ipswich last season, 3 goals, 2 assists, but they were in a pretty awful team. And he does have strengths, as demonstrated on the chart here from Will. If you're listening, I'll just talk him through. His shot accuracy is very good, but he shoots from bad areas. But more prominently, his dribbling and ball carrying is fantastic, and I think that's what Forest are really looking for in players. That stood out to me. And as Peter's mentioned, we need some left-footed players, and he is a left-footed player. who can cut in from the right and hopefully do some damage if we get him. Pete, kick us off. Just your thoughts on him as a player and the offer of 35 million.
In many ways, I think there's an awful lot to like about it. I think primarily because it's exactly the sort of pool of footballer that I want Forest to be fishing in and to be interested in, particularly young talented players who we think we can come here, develop, and then go on to either achieve great things with us or go on for bigger money elsewhere, or a bit of both, ideally. I do really like Hutchinson as a player. I don't actually think he had a great season last season, to be honest. And you sort of identified that with 3 goals, 2 assists. But I guess there is a lot of context to that, and there's even a lot of context to each of the individual stats, isn't there? So the stat that suggests he takes shots from poor areas. Well, I guess that probably says a bit about the football club and where they are at the time as well. I think there was a lot of hope resting on a player like Hutchinson creating something out of nowhere. So, I think you have to take all those things with a bit of a pinch of salt and a bit of context. My concern, to balance out the sort of positives on him, is the price. I think it's expensive. And I do get that there's an element of that being a bit arbitrary. And also there's obviously a tax on, for want of a better word, on young English talent. And all those things are understandable. If you're looking at going over £35 million for someone who hasn't done it yet, even though they've got clear potential, and I want to underline that, like, he's a player with real talent who I think can go on to really good things, a proper ball carrier, someone I think could explode and be an enormous asset for us. And indeed, if he came to the football club, we would suddenly be in a hugely better position than we were last season with the depth in terms of quality in wide areas. So look, I'm really positive about it in many ways. I'm a little bit concerned about the money. Some people will say, well, just don't worry about that. It's not your job to be concerned. But, obviously we're chatting about it. So that's sort of where I'm at with it. I can totally see why we're looking at him. I'm glad we're looking at him. It's the right sort of pool. I'm slightly concerned if the numbers are going above £35 million. But, if we had him, I think it would make a big difference to us.
A quick side note, excuse me. I was researching and looking up on Bakwa, and I did see on the Get French Football news feed that Marseille would reportedly sell Jonathan Rowe for €20 million, which seemed low to me, talking of homegrown talent. So wouldn't mind Forest going in for him. This was going to be a listener Q&A originally, and I've deferred all the questions, and we'll do that for tomorrow's podcast. So thanks to everyone who submitted. One of the questions from Sally Cinnamon, a channel member, just dropped from David Ornstein that we're in for Hutchinson. 35 million bid rejected. How high would you want us to go with a new bid? So I'll throw that question to you, Dan, or do you not like this bid anyway?
Yeah, I wouldn't go any higher than 35, I don't think. And I think Pete's right to be worried about the figures, because with all these recruitment decisions, what you spend in one area, you just can't necessarily spend in another area, and it restricts your options. So although it's not our money, it does, down the line have an impact on other players and other recruitment. So for me, yeah, 35 million feels a little bit too much if you compare our successful recruitment with, say, Alanga at 15 million and that range. Once you go above 20, you do want a little bit more proven ability in the Premier League. So it's definitely one where I think you have to trust in the recruitment team's sort of vision for what he can do within the side and the potential and all of that, as opposed to the numbers and what he's sort of proven so far. I think the games I saw, I only really watched him when he played us, and he gave us some problems in the home game, definitely with his dribbling ability and kind of creating some chances. But his shooting was a little bit rash. Certainly, when we played him away, I seem to remember he had a few kind of hopeful shots from the edge of the area and things, but that was the kind of the impact he had, as opposed to creating lots of threat for other players. So it's it's one where I just think there's better options, ultimately out there that we can consider for that value of 35, and possibly for less when we come on to talk about obviously Bakwa. The final thing I'd just say is his physique. He was smaller than I imagined when he came to the City Ground as well as a player, which I think may or may not matter to a team like us, but we do struggle to obviously get on the ball, and I sometimes think we do need a more powerful player in those attacking roles that's going to be able to hold on to the ball. So that would be one where, does it actually fit us as a player right now as well, as another thought to throw in?
Well, he's definitely a player I liked. I've lobbied for him to us to be in for him all summer. In fact, when this news emerged, my first thought was, "Oh yeah, that's really exciting." Then my second thought was, "Oh crap, what if he signs and he's rubbish?" Which maybe says more about me than Omari Hutchinson. I mean, my interest in him, Mark, isn't so much stats based particularly. It's more vibes based on. I've seen him a few times, Championship and Premier League, and thought there's definitely something there. I think there's a lot of talent that needs refining in a better team. I'm sure he's had good coaching at Ipswich, obviously under Kieran McKenna, and he'd get that here. But I hope in a better team, if he comes to us, he would work. Would he work, do you think, or what's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I guess it's an indication of maybe the change of style that we've heard, that narrative going around that we're going to be more possession based. I think he's a similar archetype to Hudson-Odoi and to Ndoye as well. In that he's a creative winger rather than a devastating, explosive winger that Elanga was for us. So it sounds like from the signing we made with Ndoye and with these two, the speculation we're going in to make offers for these two, or the confirmation we've made offers. It seems that we're targeting players who are ball carriers and more creative, players who can unlock defences rather than players who try and get behind defences with pace. It's more about trickery and craft. And we've obviously got a centre forward in Chris Wood, which needs supply. So players in wide areas who can create is absolutely key to us. And perhaps this is an indication that we're going to go more possession based. And I think Hutchinson would suit that. But it's a big change for us to make, a transition in our play from how we were playing last season to a possession based team that can make the most of Hutchinson's talent. So I've got a little bit of concern there. I do think he's a player with great potential, very coachable, who will continue to grow if we brought him in. The stats worry me a little bit, but he's 21, so there's plenty of time for growth on that front. And he was in a struggling side who played a certain way. None of the Ipswich players had fantastic numbers last season, maybe other than Delap. So it's very difficult to take too much from his numbers there. He's got a good academy background, Chelsea and Arsenal. So he's come through good solid clubs when he was younger. So I think that there's a lot to like about the move. I'm trying to put myself in Ipswich's shoes, as in what kind of offer would it take to prize him away? It's a bit of a gamble if they don't sell him this season, because obviously we don't know what impact that's going to have on him playing in the Championship if they don't sell him on. We don't therefore know what kind of season he's going to have in that Ipswich team, and it'd be very easy for his value to plummet. And this time next year, they will struggle to get 2025, and they bought him for 20. So I've got a feeling that if we stick in there, we could be successful with a bid without increasing it too much, maybe just changing the structure of it. But I like Pete and Dan has said, I'd be hesitant to go above that.
Yeah, I think maybe if you offer more up front and all that kind of stuff, or a clause or something like that, then maybe we could get it done, certainly. Right, interesting thoughts there. Appreciate that. And we'll move on to Dilane Bakwa in 1 second. Just before that, though, a word for the Trent Nav. October the 11th, Legends of Manchester. If you're a fan of the Smiths or New Order, then do check that out. Covers band, not the real bands. Tickets from £15 from fatsoma.com. You're a music fan, Mark. Are they up your street?
I am. Anyone who's listened to me in the last few podcasts would wager I'm a fan of the Smiths, I imagine. But
more Joy Division, I reckon.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. That's one of the first cover band gigs that you've pimped. That does interest me, to be honest. Yeah.
Pimping is quite the word for it, but I'll take it. Right. Let's talk about Bakwa then. From Strasbourg, L'Equipe and a few other outlets are reporting that Forest had a bid rejected. 28 million bid, according to L'Equipe. It was this is euros, 24 up front, another 4 in bonuses. He's coming off the back of a very good season in Strasbourg. He netted 6 goals, 9 assists in Ligue 1 as they scraped into the Conference League, wasn't it, in the end? So we did report on him, as mentioned, in the podcast we did about wingers, replacements for Elanga. And there's a chart here, and I'll get Dan to talk about it and him a little bit. Just this is him as a reminder. France under-21 international, linked with Chelsea, of course, 21 years of age. And this chart on here demonstrates a little bit about what he's good at. So for people who are listening, not watching, or watching and not knowing what they're seeing, Dan, can you talk us through this chart?
Yeah, so the chart sort of tries to put up like a role to the player in terms of what they do. A lot of these numbers are, what this player does the most of, as well as being what they're good at. So going down the chart, he profiles as a winger as opposed to like a second striker, wide forward mainly, and that's partly because I think he played quite a bit as like a wing back as well as a forward as well. So he generally hugs the touchline on that right hand side, but he is a left footer, so he can offer something different to what Ndoye potentially offers on that side as well. So in terms of the stats, where he stands out is that wing play on the kind of radar chart in the middle. His dribbling and ball carrying skills are good. They're right up there in that top sort of 10-20%. But what stands out for him is that he converts that into chances, and he's actually creating chances for people on the back of what he's doing with the ball. Whereas if you compare him to Hutchinson, for example, who's good at that, his decision making to actually turn that into a chance is sometimes the bit that's lacking. So I think if you watch his highlights, you'll see, whether he's cutting in or whether he's providing for others, he is good and he's strong around the box, and he does hold on to the ball in really tight situations, which I think suits us. So yeah, the chart is just showing that, like I say, his chance creation, his playmaking is right up there at the top of the comparisons with other similar forward players. And he's exciting compared to, I'd compare him to Bakayoko, that was the early link in terms of that left-footed right-hand side player. But I think this guy looks more consistent, and he offers you that defensive wing-back role as well, which really will appeal to Nuno, I suspect.
You prefer him to Hutchinson then, Dan, or not?
Yeah, I think I'd say definitely on that one. Yeah, I think the power. Well, when I touched about him being a bit more diminutive, Hutchinson, this guy, he's got that physique as well as the ball carrying skills to go with it, I think.
The fee that's reportedly wanted, Pete, is 35 million euros. I don't know if they get that or not. That's about 31 million quid or something. So not dissimilar from the Hutchinson fee. What's your thoughts on that, and any further thoughts on the player?
I'm slightly aware that I'm not sure how much I'm going to repeat myself from the last time we had this chat. I'm red hot on Bakwa. I think he would be as exciting a player as I think it is sort of realistic for us to be bringing in that sort of role. And I think if we were to find ourselves with the two options we've got now and him there with, hopefully somebody else to back him up as well, I think we'd be in an unbelievable place with real variety and real options. I think, I guess in a sense I can't add too much to what Dan said, because he's outlined his strengths really well. I think what I really loved when I spent some time watching him was he's got so many different options of how he can have an impact. He clearly loves to beat a man. He's one of those wingers where I think you get a sense that he's having a sort of personal battle each time he's out there, and he's desperate to get one over on the fullback. So you'll see him manipulating the ball really nicely. The change of pace is really good. He'll like sticking it through the legs and all that sort of stuff. So he's got that sort of really confident and direct thing going on. But then I think what really stands out is he can go both ways. So he will hit the byline and cross with his right foot, which you don't often. I guess there's a lot of players that you just don't often see that from, who play that sort of role where they cut inside a lot. He can go both ways. And then I think the thing that really stood out is that he's not just someone who's going to cut in and get a shot off. He's got a real eye for a pass, and he weights it really nicely as well. So you see him slipping a ball in behind, and there's real quality there. And like Dan says, he comes with a bit of physicality as well. I don't think he's someone who's going to find it incredibly difficult to adapt. Hopefully, it's hard to speculate, but he does have a bit of that sort of ruggedness about him, and he's versatile as well. He ticks the other box of lacking that left-footed option, which I think we all feel is like an area of the Forest squad right now that we could do a bit of help in. Probably a left-footed fullback, and also someone who can operate out wide and come in on the left. So I couldn't be much hotter on him, to be honest. I really hope that we can get it done, and I think it's significantly better value at a bit less than the Hutchinson cost as an option, personally.
I know you're a bit less familiar with him, Mark, than the other two lads, but in terms of a player coming from Liga, and I guess it's a different step up from the Premier League. You can't always sign foreign players, hence the tax on Premier League English players. So there's that factor as well. But what do you think about Hutchinson versus Bakwa, if you've had enough time to have a strong opinion on it yet?
Yeah, I'm presuming it's one or the other, right? We're not bring
I'd
both
imagine
in.
so. Yeah.
So I think what's interesting about Bakwa is the tactical versatility he gives us at wing back as well, because there'll be times when Nuno wants to play free at the back and maybe attack a game, and that gives us that option. We know that, you know, when we brought Tavares in, we were like, well, he's a terrible defender, but he's good going forward. So we know that Nuno likes pace and power at wing back and likes having that option. So as a secondary role, he can play that. Primarily, he's a winger. He's left-footed. He gives us that balance. They're both left-footed, so it's obvious we're looking for that player. Yeah, I mean, from what Dan has said and from what I've seen, Bakwa looks the better option. I guess the only caveat to that is, will he take time to adjust? Whereas Hutchinson, you can drop him in against Brentford, and we can expect a level of performance. Whereas Bakwa, a bit of an unknown. Will he? You know, he's someone we'll have to ease in probably as a result of that, right? So, does Hutchinson give us a bit more tactical versatility in the 10? You know, what are we going to do with Morgan? What's the plan there? That's maybe an added string to the bow with Hutchinson that Bakwa can't offer as well. I think they've both got merits. Bakwa looks the better option given the money involved, I would say. So that's probably the factor in his favour. And I know that from listening to Dan and Pete previously, they were very hot on him and Ndoye. So if we end up with both of those, then, you know, they've pulled up a blinder and the club have listened.
Or it's our fault when it goes belly up.
Yeah, well, that's
a lot of pressure.
Yes, one further collective smoke blowing as well. Evan Gissam was also on the list, and he's gone to Villa ahead of Palace. So that's good business by them. So they did have, of the 8 players they picked out, 2 have headed to the Premier League, 1 to us, and 1 might be heading to Forest as well. Pete just sent me a message that I had spotted, and we shall discuss at the end of the podcast around Matz Sels. Some nice news there. Right, let's talk a little bit about the third player we've been linked with in Jackson Tchatchoua, 23 years old, plays for Verona in Italy. He's got 10 caps for Cameroon. He's a right back, but he can play, looks like he can play right wing back, and even right wing potentially. He seems very attacking. I've seen a little bit of him. I don't know about Pete and Mark, but I know you've tweeted about him at least, Dan. So you're our most qualified person to have any sort of opinion, if you have one, on Jackson. Do you have one or not?
I guess sort of it is based on, obviously, just digging the numbers out of the spreadsheet and watching his YouTube highlights as usual. So there's always a caveat around.
That's all it takes on here. Don't worry.
Yeah. Around actually whether he's consistent, whether he does the right things off the ball and all that. But he just looks like he's once he gets on the ball, he's hard to get off the ball. He's like I've said about Bakwa, I guess he's got the physique and the power that once he's on it, he can drag you up the pitch. And that's kind of what we need more of, I think, because I'm not necessarily expecting that we can transition to suddenly be a really fluid possession, team that's going to play out from the back. So the way to get us up the pitch and get possession is to have someone that's got the pace and the power to just, sneak round someone and carry the ball into a space that other players can't. So he brings that, I think. And again, he brings versatility. He has played right back, left back, and, right wing as well. I think he'd be, I do think he'd be inconsistent. I suppose that would be the worry. Is I think you'll have games where he doesn't seem like he can, trap the ball, control the ball. And then he'll have games where he suddenly takes everybody on and creates something out of nothing. So I think that's the kind of play he's signing, which is why he's a 10, 12 million pound player. But as a squad player, again, the versatility, a massive tick in the box, and the value, potential and the value. If he can have 3 good seasons here for 12 million euros, then that's a good purchase for us.
Yeah,
does he fit that Tavares? Sorry, Matt. I mentioned Nuno Tavares. Is he that kind of player, Dan, as well, like pace and power coming forward rather than a resolute defender?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I think when Tavares was good under Nuno, he made a real difference in the games. It's just, again, his end product was a bit all over the shop, wasn't it? With his shooting from all over that. So yeah, similar. I think similar, definitely.
He went to Italy and got loads of, was it 9 assists in 9 games or something ridiculous like that? I know assists are a bit of a red herring, but interesting one, certainly. For, like, as Dan says, I think it's like 10, 12 million. So one to monitor. If that goes anywhere, then I'll do something proper on him. But the tweet that I was talking about was from Farbrizio Romano, who just said, Forest have made an approach for the right back. No proposal yet at this stage, only initial approach to ask about deal conditions. I don't even know what some of that means. But yeah, Forest are interested, basically.
It doesn't mean anything, Matt. It's just words to fill space.
It's phase one. It's phase one. I feel like I'm moaning about Farbrizio Romano unduly in this summer, but at one stage, I think I put in a WhatsApp chat, he tweeted the same thing twice in the space of 8 minutes, one with a picture, one without, and both of them went nuts on Twitter. So as is the MO of transfer journalism these days. Right, just before we talk a little bit about Matz Sels to wrap things up, a word of thanks for Home Move Estate Agents. As ever, if you're looking to buy or sell in the Nottingham area, get in touch with Ben. Link is in the description. It's ben@homemoveea.co.uk if you want to email him as well. If you want to look at the properties, do check out the link in the description. 5-star rated on Google, of course, and thanks for their support as ever. Right, Matz Sels then, good news, he's been linked, I was talking about transfers too much, nominated for the Yashin Trophy as part of the Ballon d'Or, so best goalkeeper in the world, basically. So he is up against Alisson Becker of Liverpool, Yassine Bono of, I don't know who some of these play for, stupidly. I'll just read out the names. I think he plays for Seville. Alisson Becker, Yassine Bono, Lucas Chevalier, Thibaut Courtois, John Luigi Donnarumma, Emilio Martinez, of course. I think he's really overrated. Jan Oblak, David Raya, Matz Sels, and Jan Sommer, who just played for Inter, or did last season. At least I know it's that one. So very good news. Mark, fantastic. I don't think we expect him to win, but what recognition when
it's great, yeah.
It just goes back to the old "where were we 4 years ago" thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I've got to be cautious here because probably about 18 months ago I was going, we need another goalkeeper, so I'm not going to take anything. I've got to be careful with my praise here. But yeah, I was completely wrong on that. Hands up, he had an outstanding season, and why that was, and there's no question he took a step up from being a very solid goalkeeper and a great replacement for Matt Turner to being an outstanding top 6 Premier League goalkeeper, and now he's getting recognition as a top 8 world goalkeeper. So I think it's brilliant for him. He deserves it. He's just progressed so much and has now become, if you're listing your 5 key players, he's got to be in it, isn't he? Because he makes such a difference to that team. So yeah, I'm delighted for him, but can take no credit.
No, Pete and Dan didn't recruit him either. So yeah.
No,
does this mean Chris Wood's in for a chance of the Ballon d'Or as well?
I know it sounds mental, but I did just have a quick look for Ballon d'Or nominees just in case. No, I don't think he is. Right. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to add? This is an abbreviated podcast, by the way, so we're going to record the Q&A straight after. So I appreciate people's understanding on that. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to add, Dan?
No, it's good to see these links because these are players that are costing a decent amount of money, and it's good that we are prepared to go to this level, particularly with Bakwa, because he's in that group of clubs with Chelsea and Strasbourg and all that. So if we could take him out of that, as much as I don't like the idea of Chelsea buying all these players, they are quite good at getting hold of these young talents. So it'd be good to take someone off them, seeing as they've already got about 100 wingers on their books before they start sniffing around. So yeah, excited by the links that we've got at the minute.
Good stuff. Pete, anything from you before we go?
Not really. I totally agree with Dan. It is exciting. I think, there's obviously been a lot of frustration around, not least from Mark, about the sort of length of time it's taken to get deals done and all that sort of stuff. But clearly it's difficult, isn't it? And there's obviously, an awful lot going on. It's an incredibly busy window. Things are pretty hot, and it'd be fascinating to see what happens across the league, really. But it does. The recent links do fill me with confidence that we're working in the right sort of direction, and if we can pull off 1 or 2 of these, then I think we could end up looking a lot stronger at the end of the window than we did at the start of it. And ultimately, we might have liked that to happen earlier, but that's what we all want, isn't it? So yeah, pretty excited.
We've had a more chipper, more familiar Mark Sutherns with us today. So final word for you, Mark, before we go.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it has come too late for me. I'd like to have seen it sooner, but I imagine the Morgan situation probably derailed a lot of plans, right? And took a lot of time and energy out of the backroom team and was a major distraction. And that ended up with a positive outcome. So suddenly it does seem that we kind of been kicked into life in terms of players we're being linked with. I want to see 1 or 2 come through the door, though. How much of it is agent talk? How much of it is actually real? So let's get them in. But yeah, it's much more positive.
Yeah, the other name bubbling in the background, of course, is Adama Traore, which we've discussed at length on here as the other wing option. And Forest signed Angus Gunn yesterday, I should say, and there was a scouting report on him in yesterday's podcast with Connor Southwell, which is worth checking out if you haven't seen it already. We'll be back tomorrow with the same three guys because we're going to record the podcast in about 30 seconds. So do join us for that. Do us a favour, hit like on this. Do consider subscribing or channel membership or Patreon, or just a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. But in the meantime, thanks very much. If we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.